Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the Sitting in a Car podcast. I'm Sarah Sproul, and I sit in a car answering questions from parents about sex. You and I sit in a car together every week and talk about how to raise a confident and caring young person who respects themselves and the people around them. The question from this week comes from a mum of an 11-year-old. I'm going to read out the question so you get it exactly right. I wonder, Sarah, have you done anything on masturbation? Specifically, I have an 11-year-old, amazing boy with some additional needs, and I feel very anxious about this phase we are entering. He can be very impulsive, and he is closer to an 8-year-old socially, but obviously with an 11-year-old body. Thanks very much. Great question. Thanks for sending it in. So any of you who have seen me speak or had any conversations with me, you will know that I have a framework that supports parents to talk about things with their kids, and it's all about building foundations. And I think about everything in terms of pyramids, and we have the specific issue that we want to talk to our kid about at the top, and then we have all the things at the bottom that help build up to having that conversation. There are usually lots of different ideas that lead into the one conversation that we need to have with them. So in the same way, this question, which is about masturbation for an 11-year-old and who has additional needs, we're going to approach it from the perspective of laying the foundation. So first point to say is that it's important for you, if you have a child like this, to initiate conversations as soon as you're able. And I don't say that lightly, because I know that we live in a culture that has trouble having open and sort of calm conversations about sexuality. And for this parent, you also have an additional layer of additional needs. So there's a complexity around that. In Ireland, up until 2017, it was illegal for people with intellectual disability to even participate in intimate sexual, physically intimate relationships. So, we're dealing with a lot of sort of stigma, I guess, around young people and adults with additional needs. So that's the first thing to say, that the sooner you talk about this, the better off it is. But I acknowledge that it might be difficult, because we have lived in a culture for a long time that has put lots of ideas in our head about how we shouldn't be talking to our kids with additional needs about things to do with their sexuality. And everyone has a sexuality. It doesn't matter what our brain is like or what our body is like. We all have a sexuality. That doesn't actually mean we can act on it for a variety of reasons, but we all have a sexuality. The second thing I would say is to embrace mistakes. So I'm thinking of that in terms of when I say mistake, I'm more about thinking about things that happen that don't go the way we want them to go. And perhaps they're not actually really a mistake. They're just opportunity to learn from experience. So that will mean initiating a conversation with your kid. Even if you don't feel quite sure you're going to get it right, that's okay. We can learn from mistakes, just like our kid learns from mistakes, because probably what may actually happen in the reality, if you haven't had the chance to start a conversation and your young person discovers their genitals and is starting to play with them or touch them in a public space, that is an opportunity to start the conversation. And the conversation will be three things, that our bodies feel nice to touch, and that's good. That's what they're designed for. That we touch our bodies in private places, in private environments like our bedroom or the bathroom. And by touching our body, we learn what feels nice for ourselves, so that one day we can share that with someone else if we want to get into a relationship with someone else. So those are the three factors. And children of any ability, or young people of any ability, need to have those three pieces of information. It's just with your child, it's going to be a matter of how often you need to reinforce that information. How do you do that? What words do you use? Maybe you use sort of simplified language. Where do you talk about that information? Because perhaps if you're wanting to make sure that your 11-year-old understands that we masturbate in private, then you might have those conversations in their room, for example. You could be having the conversation and say, let's go up to your bedroom so that we can talk about all the things you can do in your bedroom because it's a private place. The other way to think about this is to get out of the whole idea of this is all about sex, because the information we're giving our kid is sort of rules for life that can be applied to lots of different environments. And kids are able to understand that some things are okay in some places, but not others. So for example, we teach our children just by experience that you wear your swimsuit at the pool or at the beach when you're on holidays, but you don't wear it when you go into McDonald's in the middle of Dublin or whatever city you happen to live in. And so kids understand that just from observation. We can also draw parallels between different types of food and how we eat it. So if you've got a curry with rice, then you would, depending on what culture, but just coming from the culture I'm living in, you will eat that with a fork. If you have chicken nuggets, you are often allowed to eat those with your hands. And so the different environments demand different table manners. And so to relate it back again to masturbation happens. It doesn't happen in public. It can happen in private. And I would also say that when your child is young, that you just say that that's for them, only for them. And you can also say that if there is a problem with their private parts or their genitals or their penis or their vulva, whichever words you feel most comfortable using, then they can come and ask an adult they trust, and you can be very clear that that is you, or if you have a co-parent, and just be very specific about who their trusted adults are. Now, I just want to finish this off by saying my area of specific clinical interest is sexuality. I don't work specifically with children with additional needs. So if you need further help with this, find the occupational therapist that your son has a relationship with and talk to them about this issue of masturbation. And if for whatever reason they don't feel comfortable dealing with it, then please get them to get in touch with me, because part of the service I offer is to support healthcare professionals who have closer relationships with kids with particular needs, but they don't have the specialist knowledge about sexuality. So I can be the sexuality resource. The healthcare professional has the relationship with your kid and you, and we can all work together as a team. So that's it. That's about masturbation, a young person aged 11 with additional needs. And that is Sitting in a Car for another week, where I have answered a question to help you raise a confident and caring young person who respects themselves and the people around them. Bye for now.